Ciao Rafiki, I'm Elizabeth from Kasiwa82 and I hope you are doing really well. If you're new to my channel, welcome, and if you've been here before, welcome back. I post 2 videos a week. On Tuesdays, I talk about all things books and reading, and on Fridays, I talk about all things journal and creative play. It's Friday, so it's time for another Friday Flip. As always, the playlist for the Friday Flip will be linked up above as well as down below. So, last week, we flipped through this particular journal, and I will leave a link for you if you'd like to take a look at that. We're going to flip the second of this series of 3. And what I do with the Friday Flip series is talk about journals that I've used in the past, how I use them, what materials I used, what worked, what didn't work, as well as talk about journals that I'm currently using, hoping that you'll get some inspiration out of that. So, this journal has got a bunch of stickers in the front. I'm do not hoard kind of person, so I have been a hoarder, and I'm like, we have all these wonderful art supplies. What are we hoarding them on for? Might as well use them. So used a bunch of stickers. I love how that looks, and I left the back blank. As with the others in the series, these use inexpensive watercolor paper, and I had them spiral bound at Staples with the cardboard covers that come from the backing of a paper pad. So this journal starts in 2008. It's the first time I used a Pentel brush pen, and I really like the lines you can create with that. So this is drawn from life, a statue that I was looking at the Museum of Fine Arts. My journals tend to be very similar, and you will see that if you've been with my channel for a while, is that I like having sketches and I like having text. This particular size is actually one of my favorite sizes. It's a 9.5 by 12 piece of paper cut in half. So each piece is 9 inches tall by 6 inches wide. It gives me plenty of real estate, and also I get to travel with it because you can fold it on itself, which makes it very easy to use. So I have pen and ink, I have watercolors. You can see that I moved into 2009 here. My one little word for that year was passion. My older journals all tend to have these kind of an outline of my hand with some Zentangles on the inside. But I'm essentially sketching things I'm looking at. Waiting for someone, I like the chimney. I go ahead and sketch it out. I add the colored pencils when I get home. So I'm at the Boston Symphony, sketching kind of, the instruments as well as people playing. This is when I was beginning to sketch from life. It's always nerve-wracking because you're like, oh my gosh, everyone's staring at me. And sometimes they come and actually say things to you, right? But I think more often than not, everyone's intrigued by what you're doing. So traveling to Las Vegas, again, I've often found that when I take notes or sketch real time, I have a visceral memory of that particular event. So here's a glue page as well as drawing something that I saw at the Bellagio, the exhibit for the New Year's, the Chinese New Year's. This is the year of the ox. Another glue page drawing a clown kind of balloon man at Town Square in Las Vegas. So again, I don't tend to try and make my pages complete, or I don't plan them out. I just turn to the next page and see what looks good to me. So Museum of Fine Arts, these pages tended to have acrylic paints kind of splashed on the backdrop, so that when I get to those pages, I just draw whatever I'm looking at on top of them. I tended to do a lot of this back in the day. I don't do that as much these days, although yesterday I happened to do that very same thing with one of my pages, right? So again, same thing. There's a bunch of paint in the background, and then I come to that page. I think I'm looking at the Starbucks waiting for someone, and I'm just sketching what I'm seeing in front of me. A lot of my Zentangle pages tend to occur while I'm listening to either audiobooks or I'm listening to a podcast. I'm a big fan of journaling with kids. If you are too, give me a thumbs up so I know that I'm not alone, because I know I'm not. Kids have such a wonderful way of looking at creative play. And so I have all of my nieces and nephews have journals that I've given them, and when we get together, we play in our respective journals. But I also like having them do work in my own journals. So in this particular case, my nephews are tracing their hands, and then we're sketching as we talk about, the big life issues that come up when you're, 4, 5, 6. This page, I think, is inspired by Tracy Bunkers, if I remember correctly. It's got layers and layers of text and collage and stamping. Kind of like it. I don't tend to do this style much anymore, but it's kind of fun to take a look at that. it's interesting, looking back at journals to see what I did. So, for example, this is kind of funny. I have a list of should do and a list of to do. And okay, so the car had to get fixed, right? But the only thing I ended up doing was reading. Everything else, kind of went away. Do the important things first, right? So we're in my yard. My nephews find some worms. They're fascinated by the whole, who isn't, by how worms move. And so this is my nephew kind of taking notes as well as drawing the worms that he's seeing in the yard. This is back in the day when I was actually starting to draw from life. And so I'm a sailor. So when we're on the sailboat and we are at a mooring, kind of sketching, this is the Boston skyline from, I think it's Pettix, if I'm not mistaken. So it's just kind of fun to take a look and see, how my sketching has evolved over time. Because like as with anything else, the more you do it, the better you get at it. And you see what you like and don't like. So this is a sketch. We're right at a mooring off Gallup's Island. It used to be a really fun island to get to. They've closed it down because they found asbestos on it, but it's got lots of bunnies now, right? So kind of sketching that while I'm sitting in the cockpit. Same thing here, a view of Pettix Island from sitting in the cockpit. Going to Provincetown and sketching the Pilgrim Tower. If you have been to Provincetown on Cape Cod, you'll recognize this tower. It's kind of, you can't miss it. And from a boat, that's the first thing you see as you head towards Provincetown, and it's the last thing you see when you sail away. So again, just really fun memories that I capture in my journals. I've been asked this question before, do I sketch every day? And the answer is absolutely not. So, perspective, right? When you're first starting to sketch, learning about perspective is kind of interesting. Those boats look like there's a problem with them, as is this one. There's nothing wrong with the boats. The problem is with me not understanding perspective yet. And I still struggle with it. I mean, and at the end of the day, that's not the point. If I wanted a realistic image of that boat, I have photos of them in my albums, right? I don't need to have that in my sketchbook necessarily. But just sketching to see, how do I capture what I'm looking at? What is it about the scene in front of me that I find intriguing? So getting back to the do I do it every day? The answer is no. I do not make my journals a place that I put any pressure or stress on myself. This is where I come to relax. It's where I come to play. So I just basically do it whenever I feel like it. Sometimes it is every day. And sometimes I can go weeks, months without touching my journal. Well, I'm not sure I go months, but probably weeks. I have gone weeks without touching my journals. So at least my creative journals, my morning pages happens every day, right? But in terms of creative journaling, sometimes it can be, there can be big gaps between when I do a page and the next page. I work in chronological order always. These are my nephews. Again, they're hanging out with us, and I think they're drawing a self-portrait, or they're drawing a portrait of me. Kind of nice to see how they look at me, how they see me. A giraffe that we are always playing together in our journals. I took this journal with me to the Topsfield Fair, and trying to sketch live animals. I believe that's the first time I've ever done that, and I think that'd be fun to do more of once we can get out of this quarantine period. So again, it's really fun. I don't put pressure on myself. It's fun to take a look and seeing what worked, what doesn't work. I don't do some of this stuff so much anymore. I did not used to add photos to my sketchbooks or art journals, and I don't really do much of that today either. I mean, I do more than I used to do, but kind of fun taking a look at old pictures in the books. This is one of my nephew Luke, again very young. I just happen to like the hair, the clown hair on him, so kind of playing with that in the journal. So that's what this journal looks like. The last couple of pages are notes that I take about various kinds of things. So if you take a look at the journal, again, it takes me a while to fill these up, right? So this particular one started in November of 2008, and I believe it ends in November of 2009. So it took me almost a year to fill this one. And that makes sense to me because I don't put any pressure on myself in terms of I have to do a certain number of journals a year or a month or whatever. I just get to it when I get to it. I happen to do a lot more visual journaling today than I used to do back, for example, in 2007, 2008, 2009. And I'm always working in multiple journals. So that's the other thing. When you work in multiple journals, it does take time to fill any one particular journal up. But I fill them, right? Every single page, I don't tear them out. I actually go ahead and fill them. Because part of what's fun is looking to see what it was that I was doing, thinking about sketching, how I did it back then. So I would love to know if you have gone back and looked at your older journals, what insights did you get from that? What did you learn about yourself in terms of either how you have changed, how you have grown, or how you have stayed the same? I'd love to know and engage with you down in the comments down below. So until I see you next time, thanks so much for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for liking, and happy creating. Bye.